Welcome to the first video in my series of videos on how to build your own Gambrel Style Shed. My goal of this video series is to demonstrate the various stages of building this style shed. The first step is selecting the shed location. I've selected an area to the north of my house, and because it is overgrown with weeds, I'll need to clear an area large enough for the shed itself and for the equipment and materials needed to construct the shed. At this point, I've cut the weeds low enough that I can now run a push mower over the area. My goal is to cut the weeds as low as possible. Then I can move on to laying out the corner blocks for the floor to rest on. So as you can see, I've cleared enough area and set my corner blocks in roughly the location they will end up at. I've also placed 2x4s between the blocks because the next step is to determine which corner block is the lowest. Ideally, you would have perfectly level ground, but that is almost never the case. I used a water level and discovered the ground drops about 5 inches from the front left corner block to the rear of the shed, which is about 12 feet. As you can see, this block needed to be lowered about 5 inches. Fortunately, the ground is solid, undisturbed soil, so I was able to dig the hole and set the block without the need for gravel. Two other things to point out here. I've set the block so that it is perfectly level and so that the sides line up with the other two corner blocks. At this point, I've set all 4 corner blocks. In setting the other 3 corners, I made sure they formed a perfect 12 by 12 square and that they were all perfectly level. I've also placed the other 2 center support blocks along the front. It is critical that these blocks be aligned and level. Notice how the 4x4 sets perfectly across all 4 blocks. The next step is setting all of the remaining blocks. Since my shed is a 12 foot by 12 foot, I placed the blocks here about 4 foot apart. I could have just used one row of blocks in the center, but I plan on storing heavy equipment in my shed, so I needed a floor that can hold up under a great deal of weight. And although these blocks are close to their final positions, I still need to level and align them. Here, I am about to set one of my sidewall blocks. I need to align it with the back block as well as the front block. Before I can set the block, I need to ensure that the outer edges align. To do that, I placed a 4x4 so its edge is lined up with the top outer edge of this rear corner block and with the front block as well. The next step is to mark a center point on the 4x4 so that I know where the center of the block needs to be. To determine the proper distance, I measured from the top outer edge of the rear block to the top outer edge of the front block. In this case, the distance is 138 inches, and since I'm using 4 blocks, I need to divide the distance into thirds, which means the mark must be at 46 inches. I can then measure another 46 inches to mark where the second block needs to go. Now that I have my mark, I need to slide the block outward until it lines up with the outer edge of the 4x4. However, the block is still a little high, so I need to dig out some of the dirt. First, I use my hammer to draw an outline around the block so I know where it still needs to set. Next, I determine how much dirt I need to remove by measuring the distance from the bottom of the 4x4 to the top of the block. And as you can see, this block needs to be lowered about 3 inches in order to ensure that the top of the block sets flush with the bottom of the 4x4. Here, you can see the block has been placed. I made sure that the outer edge lined up with my corner blocks. Next, I dug a trench around the block using my hammer. Although it may not look like it, the trench is 3 inches deep. Now I can pull the block out of the way and proceed with digging out all of the remaining dirt. I want to make sure that when I remove the dirt, I only dig 3 inches so I end up with a flat, level area for the block to rest on. So as you can see here, I've set the 4 blocks for my right-hand wall. Also notice how the 4x4 shows that the blocks are in perfect alignment. And note how all 4 blocks touch the bottom of the 4x4. This tells us the blocks are perfectly level. In addition, notice how the 4x4 is positioned in the center of the block. What is important to note here is that the floor joist will actually hang over the edges of the 4x4s about 6 inches. This is so the blocks do not stick out beyond the walls. Hiding the blocks this way not only looks better, but it makes it much easier to mow around the building. Now, I can use the same process to align and level all of the remaining blocks.